So we have a big week ahead of us. So this Wednesday, the Senate Majority Leader has indicated that they want to move forward with this first infrastructure bill. So they are going to call a vote. And this is a procedural vote, but this will open up debate on the infrastructure bill. And so we're going to take a look and a listen to Senator Portman, because Senator Portman, he is a part of this bipartisan group that's negotiating with the White House. Now, the White House and this bipartisan group, they have indicated that they have an agreement. They have a deal, and they're still working out the fine details. And so we're going to take a look and listen to him to see what he has to say about this bipartisan infrastructure bill. But first off, you guys can do me a favor. Please hit the like button. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. Also, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that little bell notification. That way you'll get notified anytime we put out a video. Okay, so before we get started, like always, I do want to remind you in the comment section, there are people that are on there trying to impersonate me, okay? The way that you know it's me is you'll see my name and you'll see a check mark after my name. If you do not see that check mark after my name, that is not me. That is someone that's trying to spam you or trying to take money from you. So please do not respond to those messages. Okay, and one more thing I want to clear up. I actually made a mistake in the video I posted yesterday. I was talking about the child tax credit, and I said that you need to earn an income. You do not need to earn an income. They actually took that out of the latest child tax credit. The past child tax credit, the $2,000 child tax credit, you did have to earn an income. You had to earn at least $2,500 in order to qualify for the child tax credit. Well, that's no longer in this new child tax credit. So I just wanted to clear that up. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look and listen to Senator Portman. Here we go.
Joining me now exclusively is the lead negotiator on the infrastructure deal, Senator Rob Portman of Ohio. Thank you for joining me this morning, Senator. I know that you and your colleagues are working through the weekend to try to finalize this bipartisan infrastructure bill. Will it be ready by Wednesday?
Well, we're still working on it. It's more important to get it right than to meet an arbitrary deadline, and we are still negotiating. In fact, last night I was negotiating some of the final details with the White House, and later today we will be having additional negotiations with the Republicans and Democrats who've come together to put this bill into a track that's very unusual for Washington. You know, people are used to legislation being on the Republican side or the Democrat side, and this is a little confusing for people because it's actually 11 Republicans and 11 Democrats putting this together. Chuck Schumer, with all due respect, is not writing the bill, nor is Mitch McConnell, by the way. So that's why we shouldn't have an arbitrary deadline of Wednesday. We should bring the legislation forward when it's ready. And it's incredibly important legislation. You know, we have a situation now in our country where we do have crumbling infrastructure. It's hurting our efficiency, therefore our productivity and our competitiveness. China spends about 3 or 4 times more on infrastructure than we do, as an example. So everybody knows that. Every president in modern history has said we've got to have a massive investment in our infrastructure. President Bush, President Obama, President Trump actually had a $1.5 trillion proposal in his budget, so significantly more than we're talking about. So it's important that we get it done. It's been talked about for years, and yet it's got to be done in a thoughtful, bipartisan way. We don't want to rush this process and make mistakes.
Okay, so it's very interesting that he's saying that. So he's saying we don't want to rush it. We don't want to make mistakes. They've had time, and they've been talking about this. And you saw how he even went back to the Trump administration and talked about the infrastructure bill that they planned, but it never happened. And we can even go back to the Obama administration, the same thing. It never happened because politicians didn't want to come together and move forward with an infrastructure bill. So they've had plenty of time to kind of figure this out and see what's important. And the arbitrary deadline that he's talking about, this is actually a good thing. They're working on the weekend. They don't work on the weekend. A lot of weeks they don't work. Like in August, they're going to be on recess. And so the fact that they have this deadline of Wednesday is making these politicians work on the weekend to try to get this done. So that's a good thing. He might think, well, this is, we don't want to rush. But really, realistically, they're not rushing. They have plenty of time, and they've had plenty of time to actually come together and get something for the American people when it comes to infrastructure, and they failed to do it. They've just failed to do it. So now they're being pushed a little bit, and they don't like being pushed. But in my opinion, that's the way things should be done. You should be pushed to do things because we know politicians, if you give them a little bit of room, they're going to try to wiggle their way out of things or just not move forward with it. And the whole goal here, I think, and I won't even say the goal, but the fear is that they're going to go on recess before they even address this. And then they go on recess. They won't come back until September. And then when they come back in September, then they're going to be talking about the budget for 2022. And then this will just keep getting pushed down the road, down the road, down the road. So let's hope that they get something this week and they're able to put something on paper, which they should have been doing a long time ago. I don't know why it's taking so long. How do you come to an agreement with the White House and you don't even have anything on paper? So I know that there's stuff on paper. They're just trying to stall. That's my opinion.
I'll ask you about the substance of it in a minute, but you say that Chuck Schumer, the majority leader, is trying to give an arbitrary deadline. I've covered lots of legislative battles in the Senate, and what he's saying is let's just start debate. He's not saying let's have a final vote on a bill. So what's wrong with that?
Start debate on what? We don't have a product yet, and we won't have a product until we can finish the negotiations properly. Again, this is a complex bill. It involves several committees. It involves a lot of very tough issues because we've got to resolve them between us first. So again, we're meeting today. There are 11 Democrats and 11 Republicans working on this, and we're moving as fast as we can. Dana, think about it. When we came together with the
Now, I want in the comment section, let me know, do you think these politicians are moving as fast as they can? Just let me know that in the comment section.
General framework agreement, it was decided that we would then get into the details. We've had 1 week of legislative session since then for a bill that, as you indicated earlier, is over a 10-year period, over $1 trillion, over a 5-year period, which is what it's for. It's $579 billion. It makes historic investments in our infrastructure. We want to get it right. So it's not too much to ask that we have the time to do that. Again, I was on with the White House last night negotiating some of the final details. So we're still very much in that process. We'll push as hard as we can. We're working all weekend again, and that's important.
And you see, he said we're working all weekend again. I mean, that's a big thing for them. Trust me, working all weekend is a big thing. They don't even work the full week. Most of them will go home early Friday morning.
Important we get it done because, it's an urgent matter, but we ought not to have an arbitrary deadline forcing this process. We got to be sure that we're doing it in a way that ends up with the best product.
So let's talk about some of the sticking points that I know that you're working through. One of the proposals is to improve IRS enforcement of existing laws, which is estimated to increase revenue by up to $100 billion without raising taxes. A number of your Republican colleagues, though, they are coming out against this approach. Senator Ted Cruz called it a foolish and dangerous idea. So is IRS enforcement still part of your proposal or not?
Well, one reason it's not part of the proposal is that we did have pushback. Another reason is that we found out that the Democrats were going to put a proposal into the reconciliation package, which was not just similar to the one we had, but with a lot more IRS enforcement. So that created quite a problem because the general agreement is that this is the bipartisan negotiated infrastructure package and that we will stick with that. And President Biden, to his credit, said that we will not be renegotiating these items in the reconciliation package.
So just to be clear,
originally, the infrastructure package.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just going to stop here and then I'll let him finish right after this. But the IRS enforcement. So what he's saying here is, and that was going to be a big chunk, and as the interviewer said, $100 billion is something that they think that they could recoup from just enforcing the laws that are already out there when it comes to people who are not paying their fair share when it comes to taxes. And so he's saying here that that's off the table now. So that chunk of money's off the table. So guess where they're going to have to pull money from somewhere. We're not raising the corporate tax rate, and they already talked about, okay, we can repurpose some money from the old stimulus packages, but what about where's the rest of the money going to come from? So now we're probably going to start hearing about a gas tax again, the increase in the gas tax or mileage tax, and we're going to start hearing about those things again because they need money in order to fund this infrastructure bill, and a big chunk of it, just the enforcement aspect, looks like it's not going to be in there. And then the what I don't understand is one of his arguments against using the IRS enforcement, using that for funding, is, well, they're going to put it in the other bill, and so we don't want to have it in this bill because they're going to put it in the other bill. You need to work on one bill at a time. They're not even Senator Portman is not even for this American Families Plan, this second infrastructure bill. He's against it. So why not focus on funding the bill that you have in front of you, the infrastructure bill, and not worry about these other bills? And if they want to include more enforcement, then they can include more enforcement in that American Families Plan. But I can tell you what, if you put it in your proposal, there might not be any money left for the American Families Plan. So that in itself could keep that money from being used for the American Families Plan, because you were able to get in there and get the funding for it first. So I don't understand the argument, and this is going to be something that really we're going to start hearing more and more about. This is one of those things that we didn't anticipate hearing. We thought that the enforcement, the IRS enforcing the laws that are already on the books, that was going to be a no-brainer. But it looks like there's going to be a problem with that. You have some politicians right now that don't want to. I mean, just think of what you're saying here. The government, the IRS, their job is to collect taxes, and if do it efficiently. And we have politicians that are out there now saying, well, we don't want that to happen. We don't want them to enforce the laws that are already on the books when it comes to collecting taxes. We don't want that to happen. It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't.
Originally, the infrastructure package that President Biden put forward was twice as big as ours in terms of core infrastructure. So, you know, they have different ideas on this. So we have a bipartisan process here. It's a compromise between both sides. Both sides make concessions. We want to stick with that. And in terms of IRS reform or IRS tax gap, which is what was in the original proposal, that will no longer be in our proposal. It will be in the larger reconciliation bill, we are told. And that's the two tracks here. We have the infrastructure bill separately from the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill that is a strictly partisan exercise, more typical of Washington, frankly. You know, ours is the one that's unusual, and I think that's one reason you see this difference between what Senator Schumer wants to do in terms of timing and what we must do on behalf of the country.
If that's off the table, how are you going to pay for the $1.2 trillion plan?
Well, that's one reason we're having additional meetings today and had more meetings over the past few days on this topic. And there are other ways to do this. There's legislation, one called the Medicare rebate rule, that provides significant revenue. I've been on the phone a lot with the Congressional Budget Office and with the Joint Committee on Taxation over the weekend, and we have a number of pay-fors, and that's important that it be paid for. It's also important to recognize this is about long-term investments in infrastructure, which is different than government spending for a new social program, as an example. This is spending that will be spent not next year, and won't be spent for the most part until the next 5 to 10 years or more. And it goes into long-term assets, which may last 50, 70 years. Think of a bridge or a port or an airport, waterways. The water infrastructure part of this is very important, the broadband part of this. So this is about long-term investments, more like capital expenditures in the private sector. Second, because it's good for the economy to make these kinds of expenditures, it will increase the economic growth of our country, therefore increase revenue. So by more efficiency in our economy, higher productivity, you'll get taxes coming back into the economy because of this. So we take that into account as well, as we should.
Senator,
I'm excited about it because it's about our long-term growth as an economy and our competitiveness.
Senator, I want to ask you about COVID, but before I do, you just acknowledged that there is a large partisan Democratic bill that is working in companion with yours. So are you comfortable with that now?
I'm not comfortable with their legislation at all. $3.5 trillion, the largest tax increase in American history. They are not linked, and they cannot be linked. And to President Biden's credit, he has said that they are not linked. They're totally separate. Ours is a bipartisan process, and it is, again, about infrastructure only, which is a different kind of spending than what the Democrats are talking about. Theirs is a $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill, meaning they only need 50 votes. Ours requires 60. And theirs is about substantially new spending on new social programs and then huge tax increases. And no, I'm not for that. I think it's a terrible idea for our economy coming out of the pandemic, and I hope that they're not successful. But ours is on an entirely different track, and everyone acknowledges that.
When it comes down to what Senator Portman is saying, and I you know, we were all happy about this infrastructure bill. It looks like it's moving forward. The White House and this bipartisan group, we have a deal. But I don't know how far this deal is going to go now because of the funding, the pay-fors. And I've been talking about this for the last 2 months when they first started talking about moving forward with this infrastructure bill, How is it going to be paid for? And now we see a large chunk of the pay-fors, the IRS being able to enforce the tax laws that are on the books. We see that that's not going to be a part of it. So I have some real concern on how they're going to move forward with this without going into user fees. And when they go into user fees, we're all going to be affected. When we go pump our gas is going to cost more. When we, if you have an electric vehicle, it's going to cost more. When you buy products, it's going to cost more. We're already seeing inflation right now. And a lot of the inflation that we're seeing right now is due to the supply chain. So it's just going to get worse. So I don't know what the fix is for this when it comes to them refusing to focus on this IRS enforcement, which I think, like I said, it's a no-brainer. If it's already on the books, if these laws are already there, just enforce them. Give the IRS the ability to enforce the laws. And what they need is they're going to need more manpower in order to do that, but give them that opportunity to do that. That's their job. So we're going to have to follow it, see where it goes. I know I say that all the time, but this is one of those situations where I think this is very important. This infrastructure bill, he did say some good things about an infrastructure bill. It's going to bring jobs. It's going to help when it comes to our economy. It's going to help with taxes because you have more people working, more people paying into the system. That's going to help Social Security recipients. That's going to help a lot of different people in a lot of different areas. And so we'll have to see. We'll have to see how this bipartisan group works. Now, it is good to hear that there are 11 Democrats and 11 Republicans that are at least at the drawing board talking about this and negotiating, because that means they have the numbers that they need, but everybody needs to be on that same page in order for us to move forward. So you're going to need to have at least 10 Republicans. If you can keep at least 10 of those Republicans on board and get all of the Democrats on board, then you have the 60 votes that you need to move forward without fear of a filibuster. But I want to know what you guys think about this. So in the comment section, let me know down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.